Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Asheville, North Carolina, following the footsteps of Evanston, approving $2.1 million in reparations for black residents. This is a majority white community, Asheville, North Carolina. City plans to spend $200,000 on the planning and community engagement process. Sure, consultants have to make some cash. And about $1.9 million on initial reparations. Yeah. We truly want to have a better understanding of what has been the policies that either currently exist or have existed in the past that have impacted the lives, particularly of black people in Asheville, said the city manager. We want to identify and understand the current disparities and the needs and what we should really be focusing on. It's all very confusing, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
New rules every day.
Here's something you could focus on. Where are these equity warriors when it comes to K through 12 education? And the way that urban school systems in particular are set up, deriving from redlining from a bygone era. This is the topic of a op-ed in the Wall Street Journal by our friend Darrell Bradford, who's the president of 50 CAN, an education advocacy group. He's out of New York. Where you live often determines which public schools you can attend and which schools you can't. Amid a national racial reckoning and a housing shortage only getting worse, you'd think equity wars like the nation's teachers' unions and urbane progressives with access to the best schools would be fighting to overturn a policy rooted in 1930s era redlining. But don't hold your breath. They helped design the system, and they're invested in it for the long haul, which is why a solution that frees families and unleashes our creativity is the best solution available. More black voices in favor of school choice, but of course they don't get any quarter in the education establishment or the urban press corps that are tools of the education establishment, the government educational establishment. But it is interesting. It certainly runs counter to all of this counting by race and driving equality of outcomes. The only outcome they're interested in within that system, the government school system, my salary, my benefits, my ever-evolving conditions for coming to work in a public school system, as we saw over the pandemic. For more on the move away from meritocracy and choice, for that matter, pleased to be joined by Richard Bernstein, former reporter, culture critic, and foreign correspondent at Time Magazine and the New York Times. Richard, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So you did this piece for RealClearInvestigations.com where you've documented how quickly we're moving to counting by race and discarding meritocracy in sort of every sector of American society, documenting a lot of what we've documented on this show, too. And in corporate America, perhaps second only to academia in leading the way for America in this direction.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing how everybody is jumping on that bandwagon, isn't it? But, I mean, some of it, especially in education, has been going on for a long time. Effective racial quotas, different groups being admitted to the elite schools with very, very different academic records and very different test scores and all that. But what seems to be very new in the wake of the George Floyd incident is corporate America choosing to put into place basically racial quotas in hiring. And once you've decided that you're going to choose people on the basis of their race, then you've really eliminated the possibility that an equal standard can apply to everybody.
Well, when, for example, and you mentioned this, United Airlines says we're going to train 5,000 black and female pilots over the next decade or so on and so forth. That's all well and good. I don't really care what gender or race my pilot is, but I do care if my pilot is only being selected by their gender or race.
Yeah. That's certainly the message that the United Airlines announcement suggested, that, you know, they of the 5,000 new pilots to be trained in their flight school, 2,500 of them have to be minorities or women. I mean, there was no particular indication that the pipeline will provide them with 2,500 black or women pilots. I mean, United Airlines has a very keen interest in not crashing its airplanes.
Yes.
So, I have a feeling with that particular instance that, if they can't meet the quota, they'll quietly drop it, and that there was a certain amount of virtue signaling in the announcement in the first place. But the principle that we're going to hire on the basis of race or sex is set in that statement.
Well, the other thing though in that instance is when you're just trying to get to a certain number, then there's places to put people to sort of hide them just to make your number, and that's not productive for an organization or for the safety of an industry where safety is preeminent, like the airlines either. It's your focus is where it shouldn't be, which is what you're saying.
Well, and also the underlying ideology is that the United States is this fundamentally flawed, systemic racist country. It's as if we haven't been confronting racial disparities over the last 50 or 60 years with corporate America of universities, the churches, the whole society, the media, considerably mobilized to try to redress the balances that we all know do exist and that we all would like to have redressed. It's as though this is all something entirely new, and the failure to succeed is due not to individual effort on the parts of people who have been left out, but somehow it's systemic. It's the entire racist society that's at fault.
Well, let's talk about the Ivy League schools and some state universities, because they're not even accepting standardized test scores to give minorities a better shot at admissions.
Right. Well, I wrote a piece actually that I'd invite your listeners to read for Real Clear Investigations on how the University of California system decided exactly on that, on phasing out the SAT, even though a faculty investigation found that the SAT was actually helpful in finding qualified minority candidates. But what happened there is so interesting. The Board of Regents, which is consists not of academics, not of professors, but of business people and famous people in Hollywood and that sort of thing, had a meeting which was public. I listened to it, and you could sort of almost feel the skepticism about eliminating the SAT on the part of quite a number of the regents. But then somebody will get up and say the SAT is racist. And immediately, all of the opposition to eliminating the SAT kind of fades away because nobody wants to be accused of being a racist. And so the Board of Regents voted, I think unanimously, to eliminate the only measure that the university system had, the only common measure, to measure the qualifications of applicants. And they did that in the face of faculty opposition.
Well, the good news, though, is those test scores as indicators of likelihood of success at a particular school, they don't really matter anyway, because if you want to be an English major, you don't have to read Shakespeare. If you want to be a classics major, you don't have to be exposed to Latin or Greek. If you want to be a math major, you can spend all your time arguing whether 2 + 2 actually does equal 4. In certain circumstances, maybe it does. In certain other circumstances, it doesn't. So, I mean, in terms of the quality of the actual scholarship at these institutions, frankly, what is the barrier to entry? It's not like it's rigorous, the academic standards in so many respects.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what you're pointing to is the way the entire kind of liberal establishment, its various parts work in kind of concert, so that the decision of one decision is then justified by another decision. If some people aren't doing very well academically, well, just give them good grades anyway, and then you're justified in having admitted them in the first place.
Yeah, in high school, what do? Eliminate AP classes. Don't make anybody feel bad.
Yeah.
Right? That's what's happening.
Yeah. And there's also one thing that doesn't get treated in the media, including my former newspaper, the New York Times, is that there's a group of very articulate and very well-informed black conservatives
Yes.
that see this as insulting to the black community. The idea is that black kids can't make it, and therefore we have to treat them differently than we treat white kids and Asian kids, and they object to that. People like John McWhorter at Columbia University, and he specifically has been writing about the decision of the classics department at Princeton to eliminate Latin and Greek as a requirement for a classics major, saying what black kids can't learn, white kids and Asian kids can learn Latin and Greek, but black kids can't.
Well, you see, Richard, the New York Times doesn't have space for Glenn Lowry or Shelby Steele or John McWhorter or Bob Woodson because they're too busy doing deep dives with Kevin Hart, as they did this weekend. Kevin Hart, the comedian, who says, much like some of those members of Ivy League boards of trustees you were referencing, quote, "You're witnessing white power and white privilege at an all-time high. For those who say they don't understand that or don't see it or are confused as to what that means, I'm going to say you're part of the problem." It's one thing for a comedian like Kevin Hart to, prattle on ignorantly. It's another thing for Ivy League boards of trustee members or professors or people who are serious people to be completely backed down by someone just saying, this is what's happening. If you don't see it, you're part of the problem. That's not an argument. That's not an edict. There's something evidence-based about that. It's just your view that's based on, well, nothing except probably what you heard somebody say over at the 1619 Project. That's not good enough, but it is good enough.
Yeah. No, it's very strange and disturbing how this how adherence to an ideology has become kind of requirement for acceptance into the good graces of liberal society. That if you don't toe the line, you're out. And I think a lot of people just want to get on with their lives and do their work, and they don't want to get involved in all this stuff. So they kind of go along, or they don't speak out against what's happening. This kind of growth of an intolerant orthodoxy that really has kind of taken over liberalism. I mean, I actually still consider myself to be a liberal, although it's becoming harder and harder to do that. But I'm talking about the old-fashioned liberalism where you could openly debate things. You didn't assume that if somebody disagreed with you, it was because they were an evil racist. But you accepted that the world is a complicated place, and there are many different views that are legitimate, and we can talk about them. The whole debate about this issue has been snuffed out by that accusation of racism.
He is, actually, it recalls Milton Friedman talking about racism, and his opposition, frankly, to anti-discrimination laws. Basically said, "I want to punish the racist, you don't." If there's two shoe stores right next to each other, and the one shoe store hires salesmen based on merit, and the other shoe store just hires white people because he's a racist, guess who's going to have the better shoe store with and ultimately the better outcome for his business? It's, of course, the person that's hiring based on merit, not based on race. And it seems to me this is a market opportunity for those, maybe even in Fortune 1000 America, who want to stick to meritocracy. Same thing with educational institutions who want to stick with meritocracy and not go down this primrose path of I would call them the new racists. But I guess we'll see what happens. Richard I'm sorry, go ahead if you wanted to comment on that.
No, I was just laughing, saying that, yes, of course, we will see what happens. Absolutely.
Richard Bernstein, former reporter, cultural critic, and former correspondent at Time Magazine and the New York Times. Check out his piece, which I'll tweet out at realclearinvestigations.com. Almost overnight, standards of colorblind merit tumble across American society. Thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You've made the switch, and it feels so good. You've switched to Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Trading involves financial risk and is not suitable for all investors. Past results do not guarantee future performance.
Traders, listen up. As life in America starts to return to normal, are you looking for the best trading opportunities? With the current real estate market, the rise of crypto, and the volatility of tech stocks, it's virtually impossible to guess what will happen next. With Vantage Point, you don't have to. Text the word DEMO to 813-813 to learn how our technology analyzes over 1 million data points per day. Text the word DEMO to 813-813 so you can learn how to predict market trends up to 3 days in advance with incredible accuracy. Whether you're trading stocks, options, forex, futures, or crypto, Vantage Point's patented artificial intelligence can give you a massive edge. Text DEMO to 813-813 to find out how to maximize your gains. Text the word DEMO to 813-813 to learn how to use the volatility to your advantage. Don't wait. Text DEMO to 813-813 now.
Go to VantagePointSoftware.com for terms, conditions, and privacy policy.
Guys, I want to encourage you to make your health a priority. It's easier than you think at Low T Center. They're reinventing the doctor's visit, making it quick and easy to get all of your levels checked, not just your testosterone levels. They offer a comprehensive health assessment so you know all the numbers important to your health. If you've been feeling tired, grumpy, have lack of motivation and drive, have noticed weight gain and loss of muscle mass, these could all be signs of low testosterone levels, low thyroid, or even sleep apnea. Low T Center will help determine the cause of your symptoms and help you get back to feeling your best. It all starts with their quick and easy health assessment, and is covered by most health insurance. Low T Center is concierge medicine exclusively for men, and they now offer